What's happening, guys? Back at you with another video. So 2024 has come and gone. If you haven't checked out my most recent videos where I did the top 10 movies of 2024, the most disappointing movies and the biggest surprising movies of 2024, I have all those videos up on the channel now, so go check them out if you haven't yet. But this is going to be getting into the last 2024 movie video, and that's going to be my favorite movies of 2024 and some of my guilty pleasures. So with this list in this video, we're going to go over some of my favorite movies. These are movies that I enjoyed and liked this past year in 2024. Kicking off the list, we're going to go with Terrifier 3. Now, the story behind this movie is very interesting. Now, I recently became a Terrifier fan. I actually saw the first two Terrifier movies about 2 weeks before Terrifier 3 was about to come out. I decided, to give into the hype. I've been hearing a lot of hype about Terrifier and Art the Clown over the past, 2 or 3 years or so. So decided to give into the hype, check out those movies before Terrifier 3 was going to hit theaters. So after checking out those two movies, I gotta say I instantly became a fan after checking out the movies. I just fell in love with those movies and just really enjoyed them, really liked them, especially when it came to the character of Art the Clown, to where he's so hilarious and sadistic at the same time. So when it came to Terrifier 3, I definitely went to go check it out in theaters, and I just had a blast with this movie. It was definitely an interesting and fun theater experience. It was interesting to say the least because of just the way that Terrifier movies are. For those of y'all that are familiar with Terrifier movies, where it's very bloody, it's very gory, and just it's not for everyone. I would say it's definitely not for everyone. So it was a very interesting theater experience. I went to a full sold out theater whenever it came out, and just to say the least, that there was actually, while watching the movie, like during the movie, there's actually few people actually leaving the movie during the movie. It was kind of funny to see those people actually walking out of the theater and they didn't come back. It was just kind of funny and interesting to check that out. But this one definitely became a favorite for 2024 because I just instantly just really like the Terrifier movies, and I really like what they were able to do with 3. They were able to give us a little bit more lore. We had returning characters coming back, and Art continues to still be hilarious and sadistic as he is, and horrifying and all that, and just getting up to his shenanigans. So this was definitely one of my favorites in 2024. I can't wait for Terrifier 4. Getting into another favorite is going to be Beetlejuice. Now this is the sequel, the legacy sequel, whatever you want to call it, the long-awaited sequel to the first original Beetlejuice that came out in the 80s. So a long time coming for us to be able to get a sequel. So I really enjoyed what they're able to do with this movie. I was definitely worried on what they were going to be able to do. And after checking it out, I got to say I was basically satisfied with what they were able to do. I still prefer the first original one a little bit more, but I was able to like what they were able to do with this movie. It definitely felt a little bit convoluted at times in the movie, but I had a lot of fun with this movie, and I like what they're were able to give us. I was definitely satisfied with this sequel, and I'm just glad that they were able to give us a decent sequel. Another favorite, and this was probably the last movie that I watched for 2024. I watched it off in a recommendation I got from somebody, and that's going to be My Old Ass. Now, this is a movie starring Aubrey Plaza, and basically what it's about this younger 18-year-old girl who's about to go off to college. It's like the summer before college, and she's about to go off. So she spends the night with her friends, and they end up getting high. And while she's actually getting high, she actually has an encounter with her older self. I believe it was like 20 years in the future, older self, while she's actually high. So she has this encounter with her older self. And basically, she's trying to ask questions about the future. Her older self is like, playing hard to get, like not telling her exact things that are going to happen in the future and all that. But basically, the main thing that her older self tells her to do is that stay away from this guy named Chad. So she's like, okay, whatever, But lo and behold, the very next day, or at least a couple of days after that, who did she run into but a guy named Chad? And that was funny setup. It's a funny setup for this movie, but really at its core, it's very heartfelt. It's kind of a heartfelt movie. It kind of makes you think about life in general. So I honestly really enjoyed this movie. I gotta say it's definitely one of the favorites of mine. Quiet Place Day One. Now, I love the other two Quiet Place movies. I was definitely excited for a new entry in the franchise. And with this one, this was going to be taking place on the first day of the whole invasion going on. It's basically a prequel to all those other two movies that we got. And it was going to be following a set of new characters, so I was definitely interested and intrigued by that, seeing what they could be able to do, tell us a new story set in this world. And I gotta say, I really, really enjoyed this movie. The way they were able to give us a story with these characters, when it comes to the character of Lupita Nyong'o's character, where they're able to give us this, human story. It's about this woman who's just wants to get a slice of pizza, even though that sounds such a mundane type of thing going on, type of story going on, to where she's just going through the city trying to get this slice of pizza. It's a very humanized story to where you actually feel for the character and get invested with this character as she's trying to go on this journey to not only survive but just get that one last thing in her life that she wants. You have Joseph Quinn who tags along with her, to where you get these two characters, you get this story that's happening, get invested with these characters, and you just want to see them come out on top, for them to get what's best for them. And overall, it's just a compelling story that's going on in this movie. Something that this movie was able to prove to me was that it's able to continue this franchise, keep it going with other movies. The way that they're able to give us new characters, give us a new story that's set within this world, with the whole backdrop of these alien creatures. This movie actually proved to me that we can be able to continue on with movies with new characters and new stories going on. So this movie is one of the movies I enjoyed this past year in 2024. Abigail, this was just a fun experience of a movie. When it comes to vampire movies lately, we haven't really had those great vampire movies that have been coming out over recent years. We've kind of been in a downfall, kind of in a drought in a way, to where we haven't had great vampire movies. So I was definitely looking forward to this one and seeing if it could be able to live up to being just a fun or a great vampire movie. And I gotta say, after checking it out, I definitely had a lot of fun with this movie. It was ridiculous at times. It was just fun overall. Just a fun experience watching this movie, checking it out. The way that they have this movie and just set up these characters, to where these characters are kind of horrible in a way, but the way that they're able to flip the script to where you actually kind of care in a way about these characters and you want them to actually survive. And just everything that goes on, the shenanigans that go on in here, it's bloody, it's gory at times in this movie. It's a lot of fun going on. I'm just glad we're able to get a great vampire movie after not getting too many over the years. And it might just be an awesome thing that we're maybe having a resurgence of good vampire movies coming up, if another movie that's going to be on this list indicates that. Alien Romulus. Now, I was really looking forward to this movie this past year. This was definitely one of my most anticipated movies of the year, because I've just been waiting for a new Alien movie to come around and just be great. Like, hopefully we're just going to get a great Alien movie. Now, when I was going to check this one out after watching it, I definitely was glad they were able to get this movie. Fede Alvarez brings us a scenario to where, in a setting, to where he brings that horrific side of Alien back into the movies, back into the Alien franchise, and I just absolutely love that he was able to do that. It is definitely horrific at times throughout this movie. The way that we get some of the great visual effects in this movie between CGI and practical, it is amazing. You get some likable characters in here with Andy and Rain. I gotta say, in this movie, the facehuggers are at their most aggressive in the whole franchise. Like, when it comes to the facehuggers in this movie, like a lot of people, I gotta say, they're definitely scary. And it just keeps you on the edge of your seat throughout this movie with them. And I will say, even though I did enjoy this movie, I like this so much, that third act, or at least, last 15 minutes or so of it, I kind of come around on it. I remember, saying when I first watched it, when I first checked out this movie in theaters, that I wasn't completely on board with what they did. But after a second, third viewing, I'm coming around a little bit more on it. It's like, not like, I guess since I'm actually used to the actual third act of it now, I'm coming around a little bit more on it. So I really did enjoy this movie. I'm glad that we're able to get this great Alien movie into the franchise. The movie Challengers. Now, going off the trailer, when I saw this trailer, it looked like it was going to, center around tennis and this whole love triangle going on between Zendaya and some of the other characters in this movie. And really, just watching the trailer, it seemed like this movie wasn't really going to be for me. So I didn't really check this out in theaters. But when it hit streaming, I checked it out a couple weeks ago finally. And I gotta say, I was really, really surprised with this movie. I was surprised. The thing that surprised me with this movie is, like, it was actually kind of good. I heard a little buzz about it, but it kind of died out fairly quickly. But I was just really surprised on how good this movie actually was, and how much I really ended up liking this movie. This was actually one of the few movies this year to where I actually watched more than once. And really, when I said I watched this movie a couple weeks ago on streaming, and I actually recommended this movie to somebody else to watch it, and I ended up watching it with them a couple days later. And I didn't even mind watching it again, even though I watched it just a couple days ahead of time, and it was just really interesting movie. You know, it's intense, it's kind of intriguing. The way that it is, the sleekness of this movie, the way that we get some of these stylized shots in here, the camera work is kind of immaculate in a way. The way that it's very interesting. There's very intriguing and stylized shots that we got with the camera work in this movie, to where there's even some shots where it looked like you're in the perspective of the ball, you know, the point of view of the actual tennis ball going, you know, going back and forth on the court, being hit by rackets and all that. And just the way that the use of camera work was in here is very, very stylized. It's the sleekness of it. It was very intriguing the way that the camera work was done in here. And the score was honestly pretty amazing. It's sort of like a EDM sort of type of score, and it just flowed so eloquently along in the movie, you know. And then it really goes to show, you know, just a couple of days ago we had the Golden Globes and it won for best score. Challengers won for best score at the Golden Globes, and honestly I was actually kind of rooting for at the Golden Globes, and you know, it actually won. So that just goes to show you the score of this movie was honestly just the way it just flows within the movie, and just giving this story with these characters, to where, like I was saying, it definitely is revolved around tennis. Like, it centers on tennis, but it also centers on this sort of makeshift love triangle going on in the movie. And it's just the way that it's intriguing and the way that you're just like glued to the screen and just makes you on your edge of your seat. The way that this is, it's like, in a way it's suspenseful, and then it's thrilling in a way, and then you have this whole match going on between the two characters in the movie, this whole tennis match going on, and just the way that they use the flashbacks, the way that they intertwine them within the story and all that, and just telling the story overall. It was a very intriguing movie. I actually ended up liking it. Nosferatu, when it comes to the director, Robert Eggers, he knows how to submerge you in an era when it comes to his films. And you really feel that on display whenever you're watching this movie. So where he submerges you in the era that he's trying to portray in this movie. We got a great breakout performance from Lily Rose Depp. Bill Skarsgård is unrecognizable in this role as Count Orlok. He puts on a very horrific and unsettling performance. We have a great cast and great acting all around in this movie. Honestly, it's just refreshing to be able to have a great vampire movie, along with Abigail that came out this year also, to where we have these great vampire movies come out. And I'm really looking forward to Robert Eggers' next project. Supposedly it's going to be a werewolf movie, so I am down for that. Hopefully he can be able to turn out something great. But when it comes to Nosferatu, this was definitely one of my favorites. I believe this was definitely one of the top ones of the year. Deadpool and Wolverine. When it comes to Deadpool and Wolverine, this was the most fun I had at the theaters this past year. Such an amazing and fun, awesome theater experience. Just the way that this movie was able to just give us an overall great performances, just overall a great Marvel movie, just a lot of fun. Being able to see Deadpool and Wolverine finally team up. Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are hilarious and awesome in this movie. The way that they were able to give us that nostalgic kick and be able to give us sort of a love letter to the earlier versions of Marvel movies. And I gotta say, I definitely got hyped when it came to certain characters appearing in this movie. When it came to some of the scenes that we got with them, I was definitely jumping out my seat with excitement. I definitely was kind of going back and forth on whether or not I should include this within the top 10. And people have been turning on this movie lately. But I gotta say, you know, fuck it, I gotta go with my honest opinion. This was definitely one of the most fun and awesome movies this past year, so I definitely got to include it within the top 10. And we get to the Substance. The Substance was one hell of a surprise this year. I heard some buzz about this movie going on, so I decided to check it out a couple weeks ago on streaming. And I gotta say, wow, this movie was one hell of a ride. It was one hell of a surprise. This was one of those movies I gotta say I was most surprised by this year. Demi Moore gives one hell of a performance in this movie. The way this movie plays out, to where it just goes, you know, it's kind of a social commentary on society, the way that society is, the beauty, the way that they hold high regards to beauty and being young, and the way that you have this character that's played by Demi Moore, to where she's, you know, in her older ages and she's being replaced by a younger actress, and you know, just the way that you see Demi Moore play this role. And you know, props to Margaret Qualley as well in this movie. But the way that you see Demi Moore play this role, and you know, dealing with being replaced, dealing with not being that young, beautiful, you know, Demi Moore is beautiful in this movie, of course, but not as far as society is concerned, as far as with the way people see her now in this movie, the way that they show her play this role to where, you know, people think she's too old, you know, that she's not up to the beauty standards that they want, and so they go after somebody younger. So the way that Demi Moore plays this role is so amazing. And it goes to show, you know, she just won a Golden Globe for this role. So props to her, man. I gotta say, she surprised, not necessarily she surprised me, but this movie surprised me with how the way it was, and just the way that this movie, it plays out sort of like a body horror movie in a way also, where a lot of scenes are very horrific and grotesque also. You know, it's kind of unsettling at times. Just the way that this movie was is just one hell of a ride. It's so surprising in that aspect. This turned out to be a great way to you know, end the year off and check out this movie. It was just one hell of a surprising movie, I gotta say. Now we're going to go ahead and get into some guilty pleasures of 2024. These are basically movies that are, you know, maybe for some people they might be embarrassed to say that they actually liked, but I'm not too embarrassed to say that I actually like these movies. So that's one of the reasons why they go onto the guilty pleasures list. Starting off with probably the first guilty pleasure movie that came out at the beginning of the year is going to be Argyle. Now, I know a lot of people slammed on this movie. A lot of people did not enjoy this movie, did not like it, but I gotta say, I ended up having fun with it. It was wacky and zany throughout the whole movie, and honestly just had a lot of fun with it. It's like basically like a spy espionage kind of movie that's just wacky, zany, and fun. You know, the cast is great in here. You know, I just honestly had a lot of fun with this movie, even though other people didn't. Definitely another one that it really had a lot of fun with is going to be Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. I gotta say, I know a lot of people don't like these, you know, Americanized Godzilla Kong movies, but I have a lot of fun with it. I have a lot of fun with them. I know they're ridiculous at times. A lot of times the humanized stories in here are not great, but when I go to a Godzilla and Kong movie, I go for the large monster kaiju battles and action, and just to have fun and have a fun, ridiculous time, you know. And that's exactly what I got with this movie. It was just fun time in the theater checking it out. Fun theater experience overall. You know, I got exactly what I wanted out of this. Godzilla, Kong beating each other up, then they go and beat other kaiju monsters up. It's just a lot of fun, I gotta say. Now, when it comes to me, I don't know if many people know this, but I like sharks, and I like shark movies, especially when it comes to those horrible, bad, schlocky shark movies. And we got a couple of them this year. There's actually a couple of them that I actually ended up checking out this past year. Some ones I haven't checked out before. And one of those ones that I actually thought was, it's not a very good movie. It's not very good, but it's a fun, schlocky shark movie, and that's what I kind of like to do. You know, I kind of like to watch those kinds of movies. They're guilty pleasures, I gotta say. And one of those ones was called No Way Up. And basically the premise of this movie is going to be that a plane is flying, of course, and it crashes into the ocean and basically submerges into the ocean. Now, there's a small part of the plane that actually does not submerge fully underwater, so there's actually a little pocket of, you know, air. There's a little pocket of where people could actually be able to go and just get out of the water. And basically, around the plane, surrounding the plane in the ocean, of course, is sharks. That's the whole premise of this movie, to where this group of people are trying to survive on this little bit of plane that hasn't been submerged yet. And there's actually sharks that come inside the plane, and basically the group of people just trying to survive. Like I said, it's not great, but it is schlocky fun, and that's what I go to watch when it comes to bad shark movies, and this was definitely one of them. And probably the last guilty pleasure movie on this list is going to be Trap, M. Night Shyamalan's newest movie that came out this past year. I know this one was definitely mixed reviews. A lot of people did not like this movie, but I gotta say, I checked it out in theaters, and this is another movie that I just had a fun, ridiculous time with. You know, you definitely have to suspend disbelief on some of the things that happened in this movie, but it was a lot of fun. You know, it was great to see Josh Hartnett in this movie, you know, just having a fun time doing this movie. You know, he's having a little resurgence going on here, so glad to see him back in movies, you know, having a little resurgence. But this movie, you know, it's usually a hit or miss when it comes to M. Night Shyamalan movies. I gotta say, when it comes to this one, I just had fun with it. You know, I had fun with it. It's kind of ridiculous at times, definitely, but it's a lot of fun, honestly, and it's just a guilty pleasure. But that is going to do it for my favorite movies and guilty pleasure movies of 2024. Like I was saying before, check out some of my other recent 2024 movie videos that I put out. But that's going to do it all for this video. Let me know down in the comments below, what were some of your favorite movies of 2024, and did you have any guilty pleasures? But But that'll be it for this video. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe and turn notifications on so you know when I post another video. Hope you have an awesome day, and I'll see you on the next one.